All right, beloved Youest community, my soul family, brave dreamers. I'm so flippin' excited for today's conversation. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and you are just going to love my guest. She is a total delight. She's a sweetheart. I want to tell you about Sammy before we start so you can get a sense of her and her background. And then we're going to dive in. So, Sami Wunder is a leading international dating and relationship coach who specializes in helping high achieving women attract and keep romantic love. Hello, that's a pretty badass mission. I love that. Her comprehensive approach shows her clients how to embrace strong relationship boundaries while still emanating and inviting feminine energy. Sammy has enabled more than 270 single clients to get married and more than 300 partnered clients to bring their marriage back from divorce in the past 5 years. Amazing. Sammy founded her multi-seven-figure relationship brand after exiting a successful career as a gold medalist economist with a master's in public policy. That is amazing. Since then, she has improved the love lives of thousands of women, including celebrities, senior executives, and entrepreneurs in over 55 countries across the globe. Her expertise has been featured on media outlets including Forbes and Glamour, Time, Marie Claire, Business Insider, and the BBC. She lives in Germany with her adoring husband, Chris, and their adorable two boys. If you follow her on Instagram, which I highly recommend you do, we'll have all the links in the show notes. There was a recent post of her running, her two boys running around, and I was just sending so many hearts. They were so cute. Sammy, it is such a joy, such an honor to have you here. I've been wanting to have this conversation, and I'm so grateful for you and your time and being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited we're here and having this conversation today, Julie.
Yay. Okay. I think what's important before we get into, there's a lot of things I want to talk about with you. I would love to get your backstory a little bit. Like, what got you interested in relationships and love and couples? And I'm curious, like, was this something you felt like you always connected to? Did you have any struggles that you went through? Like, what got you, especially being I love that, the gold medal economist, like what you got you from there to here? Because it seemed maybe there's a similarity, but like different paths. So just let's start there.
Totally. So I never thought that I'm going to be a love coach for high achieving women. But what happened is that I received a full scholarship for my master's in Germany. And so I came all the way to Berlin to pursue my MPP, which is Master's in Public Policy. And that is when, at the age of 22, 23, when I started to seriously date. And I think coming from a family where my parents were both very extremely loving parents to us, me and my sister, but they were just such a bad match as a marriage. And so I saw a lot of discord at home, a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing. And it's interesting because I think for some people, what that does is that it tells them that I will never marry, or I never want to even look at love because it's so painful. But for me, having that experience in my childhood actually made me go the opposite way, which is I told myself, I see the importance of love and I see what it does to you when you don't have that. And so I really, really want to have real love in my life. Like, it's so interesting how you can put two people in the same situation and they'll have a completely different response to it. And so I had that response where deep within my heart, even as a teenager, seeing my parents fight, seeing my parents scream at each other, God bless them, I knew that I didn't want to put up with something like that. And I knew that I wanted to find evidence of my grand love story. Like, I really wanted to be loved and I really wanted to be fulfilled in my marriage and in my love life. And so when I went to Germany and I started dating, unfortunately, I had a completely different experience in terms of what I started to experience with the men that I was seeing. And so, like, just lots of men ghosting, lots of men fizzling out, lots of men telling me I'm a great girl, but they don't feel it for me. And like a lot of them just wanting to get into my pants and not really looking for any kind of emotional connection or commitment. And I, for a long time, just blamed the men. Like I just called them douchebags, and I said that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I am hardworking. They're just intimidated by my success, and they're just intimidated by my brains. So for a very long time, I didn't take ownership of my part in the equation. But it was, as always, when you meet that one person that you think is the one for you, which happened for me. I met somebody and we dated, like we had like the best connection for over 2 months. And then again, like from one day to the next, he stopped messaging. And I still remember like that pit in my stomach, like that just hollow feeling of being abandoned and feeling not good enough, because you know what's happening again, and it's happening to you again, and it's happened so many times before. And I think that was such a pivotal moment for me, because I felt very humiliated by that rejection. And I felt very like it almost felt like the end of the world. And again, I felt like I was at the threshold of two choices. One was to become a man hater and just blame the guys for being such, I don't know, like they ghost and they fizzle out and they're never ready to commit, and to give up on love and to just become a high achiever who's just going to make lots of money, achieve a lot of things, and bash men and show them what a woman can do. Or I could cry it out, feel my feelings, and see that in every rejection, in every situation that I've been in with men, there's also me that is part of the equation. And what if I took ownership of my part of the equation and looked upon it with curiosity and took responsibility for my part in the process? So I'm so grateful that I woke up the next morning and I said, no, I'm not giving up on love. I'm not giving up on my dream. I'm not going to become an embittered man hater, successful woman. I'm actually going to study romance, and I'm going to study relationships, and I'm going to understand what's going on here. And so I think my threshold of humiliation was really low, because I know a lot of women who will tolerate a lot before they take action. But I'm proud of myself for being a woman that didn't have a very high level of toleration. So I actually decided to do something about my pain very, very quickly on in my love life. And what I read, what I understood, from the books I read, from the courses I took, it like changed me as a person, as a woman. And within a year, I could not recognize who I was anymore. Like learning about masculine, feminine energy, learning about boundaries, learning about self-esteem, learning about intimacy fears, learning about not being able to receive love, but constantly looking for love, but not feeling good enough for it and not being able to receive it. Like everything I learned shifted me so drastically and radically. I dated amazing men in the next months. I met and got engaged to my amazing husband, Chris, within the next 9 months. And basically, I left for Paris together. He's German. So we went from Berlin to Paris to be together and married. And that's when I was home and I couldn't speak French and I was doing all my economist international development contracts. That's when I felt like I have a bigger gift to share in this world. There's more I want to give. There's a bigger impact I want to share. And it's almost like the universe just sort of sends you what you need. And if you can read the signs. So I remember seeing this ad on Facebook which said, do you want to become a coach? And do you have a gift you want to share with the world? And I was like, yeah, okay. I can't speak French. I'm here. I'm doing all these, contracts in international development. They're good money, but they don't make me feel satisfied. And I feel like, there's more I can do for the world. And they asked us inside the coaching course, so what is your gift? And I said, my gift is like my own personal transformation in my love life. And I know I'm not the only one who's struggling. I'm surrounded by amazing, gorgeous, successful, beautiful women who are struggling like I was struggling. And I would love to share with them what I have learned that's so radically changed my life. And that's how my company was born in 2016. And there's been no looking back. Like the first year was a 6-figure year. The second year was a multi-6-figure year. The third year was a 7-figure year. And now we're like a multi-7-figure annual love coaching company across 55 countries of the world. And I think I am truly living my gift. And I feel so grateful to God, to universe for just doing what I do and for landing upon what I believe I was born to do.
So there's so much in your story that's really powerful. I want to pull out a couple things that are just really, to me, really beautiful nuggets. First of all, what I love is, Sammy, you took pain and you took that seeing your parents. I know you grew up in India, you grew up mainly in India, saw your parents. It's funny, I didn't grow up in India. I grew up on the other side of the world and East Coast. And I also had a similar observance of parents that loving, yet not the best fit. And related to this a lot with what you were saying, what's so beautiful about that is you really, instead of being a victim to that, you looked at, okay, how am I going to change this story and this narrative so that I can find a partner for myself. And I think what you're saying, what I love is, of course, anyone listening, this goes for whatever sex you prefer. Like this is love, right? So, and right, your experience with men being like difficult, we'll just say, whatever word you want to put on it. What I think is so amazing to me is when that rejection, that ghosting happened, you look to see, okay, what's my part? What can I shift in me? To me, this is the big shift that we must make, no matter what we're talking about, but especially I actually experienced something similar where it was like, I think I need to, like, frankly, and I was writing this as you were speaking, it occurred for me, like, I've got to love and respect and honor myself, because if I don't do that, it's going to be hard to bring that in. I think that's part of what you're saying, which I definitely want to get into around receiving and boundaries and intimacy. And so I'm hearing like you got this intimacy with yourself and then really started attracting people, and you attracted somebody, your husband, that honors you and respects you because you were respecting yourself at that level as well. That's kind of in a nutshell. I'm hearing like amazing inner transformation. The last thing was so cool, and this is for anyone listening, this is what I see when, this is the idea of your Youest. You tapped into your gift, into this transformation you experienced. That is now your business is sharing and helping others based on your own inner work and gift. And I'm not surprised that it's blossomed and then it continues. And to me, beautiful to hear that. It's also like, that's the divine. Thank you very much. Like when we step into that. So just want to acknowledge you because you've clearly done that inner work and continue to be able to help so many people. And so just props to you. Like that's not easy. I haven't been on the same journey, but I know from my own work, like it takes something. You've got to, and it sounds like you got in there and like really read and did courses and looked at like, okay, what's going on?
Absolutely. And thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of topics I want to unpack. I'm like making notes to myself because you said so many things. I'm like, okay, intimacy, boundaries, receiving. Like maybe we start with some of those. You can pick whichever one. I know I also want to talk about like feminine versus masculine energy. And I think receiving kind of goes with that as well. But maybe we start with intimacy or boundaries.
Sure. So I think when you look at love and romance, these are called intimate relationships for a reason.
Yeah.
And the reason why they're called intimate relationships is because they require you to be intimate or really close with another person. But it's very difficult and very challenging to be intimate and close with another person without being intimate and close with yourself first. And so intimacy, I like in my work, in my programs, I like to say, into me you see. Intimacy is into me you see. And if you are seeing into me in an intimate relationship, I need to have done my inner work so that I like myself. I am comfortable letting you see my imperfections. I am comfortable being vulnerable. And I don't feel shame or self-judgment when you see me make a mistake, or when you notice a pimple on my face, or when you notice the extra chub on my thighs. Like that is like the big work, which is looking at yourself, knowing who you are, and really liking what you see. And of course, we all have the parts within us that we don't love or like. But in those cases, if we can just accept those parts without judging them, I think we're already on
Mm.
the winner's track.
I love this. This is something I'm going to pull out. I think one of the themes you're saying, which I agree with, is that non-judgment, compassion, and even I might use the word adoration. This is something I've noticed over time is like, you know, I'm just really, I love who I am. Like we all have got some flaws and defects. I mean, we're human. Like, what the heck? So that adoration of who you are, I love that. I've heard that, and I love that. Into me, I see like that intimacy. And I so am with you, Sammy, that it starts with yourself, right? And so doing this from a non-judging place, which I think that alone, and I know you do a lot of different courses and work, that alone, okay, that can take time to be able to be vulnerable, a, with yourself, with another, not judge the things that you are not as in love with, and learn to accept them and have that adoration. So right here is what we're talking about. Like, this in itself is something that can take a little effort and energy.
Absolutely. And I remember this client who saw a social media post of mine where I was dancing on a reel and I was like, I love me, I accept me, and I love my brown hair, I love my brown skin. And she actually wrote me a private message saying, Sammy, I have to let you know that it felt uncomfortable for me to see how much you were praising yourself and how highly you were speaking of yourself. And this is not to judge you, but this is to show you that my world is so different. Like, I have never ever spoken so well about myself. And I
Mm.
really think I can learn this from you, that I can look at myself with more love. I can look at myself with more celebration, with more adoration. And it's safe for me to like myself. It's safe for me to like the person I am and celebrate the person I am. So what feels like very normal to me, like I like myself because I've done the work and I'm not perfect and I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I don't have to be. I can see that for a lot of clients who come to us and work with us, this is something brand new for them. Like, they are used to complimenting others, they're used to praising others, they're used to offering grace and compassion to other people. They're the best of friends, they're the best of mothers. But when it comes to themselves, they are so hard on themselves. And that it takes a lot of conscious focus to shift the voice in your head and how you talk to yourself, even when nobody's listening and nobody's watching. I think that is where the inner work comes in, which is, how do I look at myself and how do I talk to myself? And that really is what forms your self-esteem. So when you're interacting with men, whether it's your boyfriend, your husband, or just a new date that you're meeting, it it may feel like this person can't hear what I think about myself, but your energy trickles through. And so if you like yourself when nobody's around, when people are around you, they will feel that self-love flowing through you. And if you are hard on yourself and you're critical of yourself when nobody's around, then when people are around you or your romantic partner is around you, that energy will flow through and he will receive that. And so I think so many people, even when women come to us, they're all about like strategy. Sammy, how do I get a guy, or how do I get my husband to pay attention to me? And I'm like, do the inner work. Like,
Yeah.
if you do the inner work, that's where the big shifts happen. Of course, we also help with strategy, but strategy, I believe, works when the foundation of the energy is right, and inner work is the energy that you're bringing to the table.
I couldn't agree more. I 100% am on board with that. And I think even, from an energy standpoint, right? Like, what you feel, what you think about comes about. What you are focusing on expands. So I love what you said. I mean, it's really, what are you saying to yourself on those moments where no one's around? And that is going to be what you're attracting, what you're bringing in. So I love this. I do want to talk about boundaries, because I know for me, and it's not like I am full in recovery here around boundaries, but especially for a lot of women, I don't want to say all women, but I think for many women, saying no. I was raised like, be the nice girl. Like people pleasing was just in my genes, and I've had to learn to unwind that because saying no sometimes is the most loving thing. It might not feel great in the moment, but I'd love to talk about boundaries and like how both with ourselves, but and what you've studied, what you teach with partners and in general in relationships. I think this is something many, many, many struggle with and would
Yeah.
love to hear. Yeah.
So I think when I'm working with my clients inside Elevate, which is like my core life coaching program, where I help women attract an amazing man or heal their marriage or relationship, what I'm looking at is shifting their emotional relationship with boundaries. So when I say the word boundaries, I'm going to ask my client, what does it bring up for you? Does it bring up a good emotion or does it bring up a bad emotion? And for most clients, it is a bad emotion because somehow there is a negative emotional charge connected with drawing boundaries. And when you ask them, why is there a negative emotional charge? It's because either they see boundaries as something that will bring them a loss. So either when they draw boundaries, they've lost friends, they've lost men, they've lost their partner, or they are associating boundaries with conflict and they like to avoid conflict. And so just boundaries, the word is so negative. It's got a negative emotional charge. And so I think the way I work is I help to shift this negative emotional charge into something neutral and then into something positive, right? So you can get into neutrality around boundaries by understanding at the basic level that if there has to be a healthy relationship with this person in front of me, whether it's a date and it's a boundary around sex, or it's a boundary around him coming to your apartment, or it's a boundary around, him showing up late on the dates or calling you late at night, or just calling you for sex and using you as a booty call, or it's with your partner where, I don't know, maybe he's texting with an ex, or maybe he's not spending enough quality time with you or the children, or he's not helping enough in the household and the burden is all on you. It doesn't matter who you're dealing with. I think what is important to understand is that boundaries must be in place if I love the other person, if I care about the other person. So instead of thinking about boundaries as just self-care, which is for a lot of women very hard because they think it's selfish and they're conditioned to think about the other person, I actually like to bring my clients to a neutral ground around boundaries by telling them it is when you love the other person that you have boundaries. Because without healthy boundaries, the relationship collapses. Without healthy boundaries, when you're not able to say no, when you sleep with a guy that you actually don't want to sleep with, but you sleep with him because you feel obligated to sleep with him, you actually start to resent him and you start to push him away. If it's your partner and you're not drawing boundaries, you actually silently start to feel resentful again. You silently start to judge him. You silently start to get angry at him. And then it trickles out in other ways, right? So understanding that when we draw boundaries, we're not just doing it for us, we're doing it in favor of the people we love. Because without healthy boundaries, all kinds of negative emotions are going to start trickling out and they're going to start damaging and sabotaging your relationship. So that's how we reach this neutral ground with boundaries, which is it's not me being selfish and it's not just about me. It's about loving the person in front of me. And I think stage number 3 with boundaries is really developing that positive charge towards boundaries. And this comes from when it's single ladies, I tell them your boundaries are attractive to men. Like you have no idea like how sexy a no sounds. And so if you can say that no to a man, if he's the right man for you, and if he's like emotionally mature, he's actually going to be so much more turned on by your boundaries versus pushed away. So it has to be, of course, the right guy. Like our boundaries filter out the wrong people. So it has to be the right person, but on the right person, boundaries work like magic. Like they work, they're so sexy in dating. And it's the same for your relationship, right? Like if you have a partner who is actually loving and actually devoted, he's going to find your boundaries really sexy. He's going to want to honor your boundaries. And so I always tell my clients, like, give up the fear and the negative emotion you feel around boundaries and start understanding that your boundaries are actually freaking attractive to the right men. And so you want to embrace them. Like sometimes I even tell my clients, just try saying a no, just see what happens, just experiment with it. And they're amazed at like how much it turns on the right men and how much these men start chasing them even more and honoring them even more. And so I think it's this experience of going from negative to neutral to positive and really like having fun with your boundaries and knowing that for the right people, they're actually making you so much sexier.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot to unpack here. I love it. And I think like anything, what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me too. You don't ever really want to go from a negative to a positive without, you got to go in the neutral first. You got to reframe it. You got to change your mindset around it. And I will say, as somebody who's done a lot of work, not necessarily in relationships, more with myself, with my time, especially with kids. I know you have kids too. I've actually, I would say I'm headed into the positive zone with it because for me now, it feels very loving. It feels empowering. I don't know if what my husband thinks about me having them. He probably, I'm pretty clear. I've always been really clear. Like that has never been the issue, but I know, and this might be something that others listening have too, wanting to do all these things that you can't always do and have time for, and that can go for dating too. And I've found my own experience, what you're saying is really applied, like learning to go from that negative. It doesn't have to be a negative at all. In fact, making it neutral to feeling, for me, it's empowering to say no, because what you say no to gives you the room to say yes. And let your no, if it's a no, if it's a someone that you don't really want to date or be hanging with, like go, and this is something I'm sure you get into. I know I teach around a lot, is intuition. Like trust your body. If it's no, then heck, it's no. And that's okay. If it's maybe, all right, you're not sure. But we typically know, and I think this is so brilliant about you want to go negative to neutral to positive. And I hadn't really thought about it as being like a sexy thing. That's kind of fun. I know.
I
I'm
think
gonna,
it's so sexy.
I'm
And
gonna
I
ask.
mean, I
Yeah.
think it's like even I like when men say no to me, I'm like, okay, I like your confidence.
Right, right, right. There is yeah, that under that is that efficacy and confidence. I can really hear that. There's that, and there is something about that, the other person really getting, I value myself, right? And that I think also leads into, the kind of relationship you want to attract. A healthy relationship is where both people like that interdependence, where you have a sense of self and you can say no. So I could see that. That's cool. I haven't thought of it like it's sexy. I feel like that's like a book. That should be your book. Boundaries are the new sexy.
Yes, and I think we have to always remember that dating and romance is like the process of choosing your mate. At a biological level, you are choosing who you're going to have kids with if you want kids, or who you're going to make love with. And so it is about value demonstration,
Yeah.
and boundaries are a huge demonstration of value. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go about creating fake boundaries, right, to demonstrate value, but it just means that, when something doesn't sit well with you or for you, like having the ability to say no to that is actually a demonstration of knowing your value and knowing your worth and not being a people pleaser, or in this case, a man pleaser.
Yeah. No, this is really helpful. I think it's powerful. I would love to talk about masculine versus feminine energy. And of course, understanding some people that might be listening might identify as female or male or both. And the energy, though, there's different energies. And I think really understanding, to me, I think that there's a major, how would I say it, a desire and need for more feminine energy in the world, and especially in our lives. And I'd say for many women, especially ambitious driven women, I didn't get my MPP like you, but certainly someone who's like gone after the degree and like schooling. Got the ambition, got the driven piece, but what about the feminine energy? What about that receiving? Let's go into that because I think that's a really good place to end up. I want to hear what you teach, what you think about. What can we learn, Sammy, about feminine energy and what's needed?
Oh my God, I could talk about this like all day long because I love it so much. And I have to say that learning about feminine energy saved my life. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that because today, as somebody who, as a woman who out earns her husband by a factor of 10, and like just having so much empowered masculine energy and being so ambitious and such a go-getter, like my marriage would not have survived my success had I not known about feminine energy. And so like I just talk about this so openly because I think it's such a needed message for strong women to embrace their feminine more. And so I think it's also, let's just start with saying that this is not a sexist concept. It doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. Both men and women have both masculine and feminine energies. I think there is some incomplete knowledge floating around there where people get triggered when they hear masculine because they associate it with men and feminine, they associate it with women. But it's important to understand that men and women have both energies. And so what we see with a lot of high achieving women is that I can speak for myself. Let's just talk about me. I grew up in a family where my parents were fighting, and my mom was telling me almost on a weekly basis, you've got to be strong. You've got to stop being so emotional. You've got to go be a go-getter. You've got to get good grades. You've got to go make your life. You've got to go make money and never rely on a man. Right? And so I don't think I'm the only Indian woman. When I speak to who has received these messages, I think a lot of women growing in the era of, feminism, and where our grandmothers and our great grandmothers fought so hard for the rights that we women have today, there has been a tendency for women to succeed in a masculine paradigm and with a masculine paradigm, which means that we as women in the era of feminism learned that if you just push hard enough, if you just bulldoze through, if you just go for it, if you just plan, organize, take action, and just keep pushing and keep going, you're gonna win. And that has been amazing for our careers. Let's face it. Like, when I talk to my single mother clients, they wouldn't survive without their masculine energy, right? Like they've got to put food on their table, they've got to take care of their kids. Now, our empowered masculine energy is phenomenal. It's amazing. And it makes us do wondrous things. And so there's no judgment around that energy. It's the go-getter, action-taking energy. But the struggle starts when we don't know where to stop with that energy. And that energy then becomes at some level our identity. That's what we identify ourselves with. So I know a lot of the times women tell me, oh, Sammy, you're a go-getter. And I just go like, that's one part of me. There's also like a really lazy receiving part of me, but like people don't see that. When people see a successful woman, they'll go like, yeah, she's a go-getter, she's ambitious. And I think this is where, as women, we have to know where to stop that energy and when to switch out of it and go into our feminine. So what is feminine? Feminine is being. And I know that sounds like, what's being, right? Like for those of us who are so much in our masculine and we're going out there, we're achieving, feminine can sound like a very woo-woo concept that people just don't get. And so the way I like to describe being is just, your smile is you being, your laughing is you being, your being present in the moment is being, your not doing, not giving, but just leaning back and receiving whatever is being offered to you is being, right? You're not doing anything. If something is coming to you, you're receiving that. That's being, right? You being in touch with your body, your stomach, your belly, your emotional world is you being, right? And being is just so magical and so healing for our love life. Because when a woman who, let's just say the woman who's listening to me right now, she's smart, she's successful, she's ambitious, she's single, she loves Julie, and she just, the only thing missing in her life is she doesn't have a great guy in her life. So now this woman, when she understands that she can channel her go-getter masculine energy in her work life, but when it comes to going on dates, instead of being the woman who's like smitten kitty, leaning forward, trying to perform for the guy, trying to impress the guy, trying to pick up the bill, trying to, like, I don't know, pick up the guy and drop him to his home because, like, yeah, it's on the way. When you're doing all of this work in a romantic connection, you are basically showing up in your masculine. And what's going to happen is that you're going to attract a man who's more in his feminine, because attraction and romance is based on the principle of polarity, which means opposite energies are required for there to be sexual tension in a relationship. Now, if you have the same energy, so if there is a masculine man dominantly and the woman shows dominantly in her masculine, they're going to become friends because they're going to both connect with the mind, both of them. Or there is going to be, it's going to feel flat, or it's going to be a lot of conflict and headbutting because it's the same energy. Now, if there is a feminine man and the woman is showing in her feminine, it's going to be really super duper boring because nothing is going to happen. There's no leading energy. There's only both being energies. And so for sexual tension, for lust, for passion, for, if you want a man to throw you on the bed and make love to you like a Stone Age man, you need to have polarity. And so women become so powerful when they understand that I can have the best of both worlds. I can be amazingly successful at my career and have a grand love story if I know how to capitalize on switching between these two energies. And so when you show up in your feminine on dates, you attract empowered masculine men. And these are the men who are willing to give, to do, to provide. And it's not just monetarily. Like, a lot of times women think money is the only way men can provide, but that's not true. For a lot of my successful clients who make a lot of money, provision can look like emotional support. Provision can look like support at home with the kids. Provision can look like, I am here for you, my queen. What do you need? How can I give to you? And how can I be there for you? So if that's what you're looking to attract, masculine is not your friend, feminine is.
Really cool way of explaining this, Sammy. I love it. And I think I'm always like thinking, okay, it applies in relationships and dating. This applies in business. This applies in life, because I think what we come back to the root of this is that yin and yang, that balance. I'm seeing that infinity sign. Like, if you have too much masculine, and I hear you, in terms of, I know for me, I have had health breakdowns when I'm too much in my masculine, which can be like pushing, doing, striving. It's never enough. That can be,
Yeah.
to me, some of the things we might see. So if you're listening, you're like, how do I know? Well, if you're overdoing what Sammy was saying, like if you're probably listening in, you probably have some of that, overdoer, ambitious, driven, striving part of you. I think that's just who I tend to attract, which does not surprise me because that is something I have struggled to move through. And it's not bad. I love what you said. It's not, we don't want to let go of that. That's the empowered masculine energy. However, like anything, if we want to have that polarity. And I would even say too, what I've noticed is that healthy balance in your body, in your energy, in your giving yourself time to be, to receive, to be present. That's actually one of the biggest gifts. I had a back situation happen, and I really had to switch my whole way of doing everything, exercise, life. And I chose, but I was forced to stop doing so much, even like couldn't bend over. I mean, this was about 7 or 8 months ago. And I really got the power of this feminine energy of being, what you were saying, of really receiving. And I think that that's something that receiving, and I don't know if you see this, but what I've seen is that often the comfortability with receiving, what's often missing is that worthiness piece, or that feeling, or trusting. Like, is it okay to not always be in the driver's seat? Or I'm not used to pushing. I'm used to pushing and doing and striving. Like, how do I just do nothing? Although I'll say once you start doing more of that, I love being.
I mean, I have a story of a client coming over for one of her VIP intensives with me to Germany. And then we just happened to invite her. Like I usually don't do this, but I was like, why don't you come over and spend an afternoon with us? And she literally told me that she was uncomfortable in her belly when she saw like how my husband Chris was jumping on his feet to get us drinks, and like how I was just sitting and like not doing anything. And it was so weird for her that my husband would come in, lean into me, kiss me, and then say, do you need anything, darling? Or can I go? Or like, like let me know if you ladies need anything. And she's like, I'm so not used to this. Like I'm so used to jumping around, being the host, playing the host, pouring, bringing drinks for the guys, and like just like being that buddy girl who's always doing. And so I think I think some of it is worthiness, but a lot of it is what's modeled to us. Like,
Mm,
let's just cut ourselves some slack here
yeah.
and be compassionate to ourselves. I think if you grow up seeing your mother do everything for your dad, that becomes the model of who you should be and how you should show up in love. And so I think for a lot of my clients, it's programming, it's what they have seen, and that's what they emulate again and again. And that's why deviation from that feels so unfamiliar and so uncomfortable,
Yeah.
because it's like that's not the right way to do it. Like that's so weird, the woman is sitting and the man is bringing drinks. And like in Germany we have a very like emancipated, women can do whatever they want kind of society,
Yeah.
which is great. I love that women can do anything. I'm a woman and I love doing anything I want. But it's more like, I'm gonna be like a man, and I'm gonna have my hand on my hips, and basically the man will sit and the woman will go get beer for both of them and like do everything. And to be honest, like just as a business owner and as a mom of two young children, I like my relationship to be a place where I can let go and receive.
Mm,
Like I am giving in all corners. I'm giving to my clients, I'm giving to my kids, I'm giving to my business. At least in my relationship, I freaking get to be the queen, and I freaking get to relax and lean back and hand over the burden and the responsibility to somebody else, right? So I see this, tuning into your feminine, not from a submissive place, but I see it actually as empowerment for us women. Like when women are my clients and they do my work, their guys do everything at home. This is amazing.
mhm.
This is like true women's empowerment and love, right? Like we're not empowered if we're doing everything everywhere and we're burnt out and exhausted at the end of it. We're empowered where, we can lean back, relax, get to be queens, and we have amazing supportive masculine partners.
Yeah. No, it's really, this is so, it's powerful. And I think what's important is, I mean, that balance and that I think you're right with what's modeled. I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, that's so one of the gifts actually, even though my parents, I don't think we're the best match and we're like brother, sister. My dad did a lot of the like housework, and he cleaned and he cooked, and I saw that. And so I will say that's a positive. I was like, kind of not expecting, but in my programming, there's other programming I definitely needed to change, but in that way. And I'm remarried to somebody who cooks a lot, cleans, like just super loving. And that receiving piece, I mean, we joke, I'm like, maybe I should not be in receiving all the time. Like, I think I could probably do a little more, and I'm trying, to take on a little more. No, we joke about it. He's definitely loves giving and doing that. But I think what you're saying, that modeling can show up, or what you saw, and sometimes just reprogramming, but also being comfortable with this. I just think energy is energy. So, how I think you do one thing is often how you do others. So, learning to do this in a relationship. And if you're not dating someone, I was thinking, like, wow, with a friend, learn how to receive from a friend or someone you're close with. Or if you're dating, even if it's not your end of, your life partner, learning how to receive like this, I think is one of the most healing, healthy things, especially for women, that we can learn. I so agree. And so I want to ask before we wrap up two things. I like to ask this question, and I know you also have a gift that I want to share with everyone. I like to ask about what, being your Youest you, like, what does that mean? We've gotten a sense, just you really deciding you were going to create and design your life as you want it. What does that mean to you, Sammy, being your Youest you? And how do you think that connects to calling in your partner or love relationship?
So I think we are all really unique individuals here on this planet with our own unique magic. And so for me, living your signature in the world and
Mm,
being more of who you are is what brings in the right person for you. So it's almost like you're emitting a frequency, and either that frequency is weak and it's not enough of you, or that frequency is strong and it's really you and it's really pure, that frequency. And so the purer the frequency that you're letting out and really being your authentic self, the faster you bring in the right person for you,
mm,
because your soulmate can recognize that pure frequency. And like it's like living your signature in the world, and the more you live your signature, the more that which is meant for you comes to you. So for me, that is what
mm.
Yoest to you means. Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. I've never heard it said that way. Beautiful. I'm going to try to, well, everything will be in the show notes and including links and all of your stuff so people can find you. I know you have a masterclass or a gift that you wanted to share, and we'll have links to that too, because I would love to, let people know ways they can learn more. Maybe just share for a minute about what's coming up.
Yes, absolutely. So I have the special gift for your audience. And I know from experience that the woman who's listening to this right now most probably already has the masculine nailed down. She knows how to go for things she wants, and she's a go-getter and she's ambitious. But still, it's the feminine energy part that feels vague and hard to implement. And so I have a live training that I have recorded for these beautiful women to go check out. It's called Lean In at Work. Lean back in love. And basically, it shows you how you can go in your all out masculine in work and career, but within your love life, you want to know how to embody your feminine. And then inside the training, I give 3 practical ways any woman can start embodying her feminine overnight by going through what I'm teaching in that training. And I also have this really sexy PDF there with feminine scripts, and it's all about how to talk to men about money, sex, conflict management, getting him to spend time with you. And so, like, all these important things, but to do that in a feminine way. So, without nagging, without demanding, without scolding and complaining. So, I'm a total master at scripting in a way that when you speak those scripts, they foster intimacy and they bring your partner closer. So that PDF is also part of this free gift.
Awesome. I've never heard a PDF be described as sexy, but awesome. Love it. Why not?
Yes,
Yay.
love and romance after all.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I'm like, so fun. I'm like, shoot, sexy
Sexy
PDF.
counts in this field.
I love it. It totally does. I know. And I always come back. It's like, I have to say, with the whole like sexy thing, one of the things that I've really learned is so important is like find your inner sexy for yourself too.
Yeah,
Like just,
yeah.
which clearly, if anyone's watching this, you are like embodying this like queen, beautiful femininity of being in this beautiful red and plush red background. So anyhow, it is kind of a cool background for anyone watching on YouTube. You got to check it out. It's beautiful.
Thank
Regal.
you.
Sammy, thank you so much. I love how you've turned something that was really upsetting, challenging, a struggle into your gift, into how you're helping so many people. And it was such a delight to chat with you. I love this topic. And I think there's just a lot of nuggets here, a lot of great wisdom. And heck yes to more receiving and bringing in the feminine energy for all of us, wherever you are on the spectrum of gender, wherever you are, like really all of us could be bringing that in. And I just want to thank you for being you and your Youest you.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a beautiful conversation, Julie.
And I want to thank all of you, beloved Youest you listeners, for being your Youest you, for tuning in, for being part of this conversation. Of course, please leave feedback. Let us know, what did you love about this show? What are your takeaways? How are you going to have more intimacy in your own life with yourself, with your partner? Boundaries, bringing in the feminine receiving energy. We'd love to know. And as always, it's such a blessing to be here with you. Lots of love.